Hey everyone, this is Gabe Collins. Welcome back to the channel. If we've not met before, I am a young sales professional documenting my experience and journey throughout the beginning of my experience with corporate America and tracking along any tips and tricks that I learn along the way. The topic of discussion for today: the 6 steps that I took to ace my sales interviews. Sales interviews tend to be different than a lot of other interviews. I have a few very close friends who are not in sales, but are in different areas of business, and they explained to me that their processes look completely different. They do share some basic similarities like behavioral questions and the whole ideas behind the formalities of interviews tend to be the same, but the contents and what the interviewers are really looking for with salespeople can and most likely will be different when you're interviewing. So let's jump right into it. The first step in ensuring that you ace your sales interview is to ensure that you have a really good understanding of the company, the role, and the interviewer. The first piece that's really important to look at and understand is the company. The company that you're interviewing for is the one that you'll be joining, and you want to have a good understanding of what the company does. What do they do? How do they make money? It's also a good idea to know who the CEO is, when it was founded, what's their revenue number per year, and how many employees do they have. Finally, who are their customers? What's their market share in their industry? And who are their competitors? By understanding each of these about the company, you're going to have a really wide, deep view holistically of what the company is doing in any given market. And you'll be able to better align and tailor your strengths to benefiting the company. Secondly, about the role, you want to understand the title and the key responsibilities. Make sure you know who you're reporting to. Are you reporting to the interviewer? Understand why the role is important to the business and why they would hire someone like you. And again, align your strengths to that position. What strengths do you have? What can you bring to add value to that team? Finally, about the interviewer, I always like to look at their LinkedIn and look at their tenure at the company. How long have they been there? How long have they been working in corporate America? What are their interests? What are some common ground that you could have? These are all really good ways to generate conversation in the beginning and keep it more of a conversational interview rather than kind of robot conversation. Knowing more about the interviewer shows you did your homework and makes it a more personable interview. The second step is to prepare 4 to 6 stories that you can get down and know by heart and relate to anything, as well as a why sales story. For each of the 4 to 6 stories that you have, you should be able to relate these to any theme or any behavioral question that they're going to ask you. For example, you may have one job that gives you a ton of different stories that you would be able to tell over several different themes, such as what conflicts have you had with a coworker? Tell me about a time you failed. How did you overcome that? Your 4 to 6 stories is to ensure that you never get lost and you always have a base point of being able to answer. Make sure that you're diversifying the sources. This is one of the biggest pieces of critique that I've heard from myself and other sales individuals is that they don't want to hear about one work experience. They want to hear about multiple. So I like to bring in high school sports. I like to bring in all of my internships, my t-shirt job that I had, every experience that I had, even if it was just in school or even if it was extracurricular, they want to hear about everything. Even if you have one extremely qualified experience, make sure you diversify into other experiences that were also important to you. Now, as for the why sales story, this is super important. For the company I'm currently working at, this was a requirement. They wanted to know why you wanted to be in sales, and every single interviewer in the 3-step interview process asked me why sales. I had to give a good answer and tell a story. For companies that don't, it's still a good idea to tell the recruiter or the interviewer why you want to do sales and how your strengths align with that so that you could be a kick-ass salesperson. The third step is to use the STAR method when structuring your responses. This is something that I've spoken about before and that I briefly made a mistake on in the video. STAR stands for situation, task, action, result. Well, why does this matter? A lot of us tend to ramble when we answer questions, especially when we're nervous. We speak fast and we want to get everything through, and we give a little too much context and we just do too much. Interviewers, especially in sales, want to know that you're precise, that you can be concise in your answers, and that you say exactly what you're meaning to say and nothing more. The STAR method is what's going to help you do that. So for this first example off of common behavioral questions on Indeed, give me an example of a time that you had a conflict with a team member How did you handle it? Here's how I would structure that in a STAR method. During my internship, I was a part of a team of 8 people working on an end of internship capstone project. One of my teammates and I disagreed on the direction that we should take the presentation from an idea standpoint. I really wanted to understand my teammates' perspective better so that we could make a mutually beneficial outcome that tailored to both of our strengths and both of our ideas. So what I did was I asked him if he would like to meet before work one day to discuss it. I set up a framework for the conversation so that it didn't feel as much of a debate and it felt more like me really trying to understand him and vice versa. The conversation went really well. We understood each other. Because we both felt heard, we were able to come together and start brainstorming a new solution that benefited both of us and our team. As a result, we ended up developing a new hybrid presentation that tailored to both of our strengths and our ideas. We placed first in the intern competition due to our creative ideas that we wouldn't have been able to have had we not understood each other. After seeing it being broken down, you should now be able to practice some of those questions after you pull together your stories. Practice the STAR method, see what you can pull together, put it into a framework. So that's the STAR method. I'll talk a little bit more about it at the end of the episode. The fourth step is to practice out loud. This is so crucial. You need to be able to pick yourself apart and give yourself feedback. What I like to do is record myself answering those common questions. You can also use ChatGPT, the voice method, or there are other online applications that are AI apps that will listen to your response and nitpick you and tell you what you need to do better. I like to watch, take notes, and then give myself feedback. If you're practicing with a mentor, which I highly recommend, they can also give you a lot of feedback. I would take everything they have into heart, especially if they're qualified. Try to get yourself a mentor who's in some sort of realm of business or sales because they'll be able to give you really relevant feedback about what you're doing correctly and what you could improve on. Consistent repetition also helps build confidence and continues polishing your answers to be even more concise. The fifth step is to prepare thoughtful questions for the interviewer. This is crucial. Every interviewer is most likely going to ask you, what questions do you have for me? It looks really bad if you have nothing. So here's a few good examples of some questions you could ask an interviewer at the end of the call. I like to ask, how is success measured in this role? What are the biggest challenges that someone may face in this role? What learning and development opportunities are there for me? How would you describe the culture in 3 words? And finally, do you see me fitting into this role? A lot of people like to ask at the end of an interview a closing question, if you will. Is there anything in my background that makes you hesitate? The idea is to get them to say no. Something that a mentor told me was to flip that and get them to say yes at the end. So, what I like to ask is, do you see me fitting into this role? If they do, they're going to reaffirm that they do in their mind. If they can truly see you in the role, it's huge psychologically for them to be able to push you forward to the next round and so on. This is something that I like to do. It may not be your style. I do like to try to hard close and show that I'm confident and that I have what it takes. But if you're more of a passive person, that's okay. The final step is to network with employees, especially ones that are already in the role that you're interviewing for. I have always reached out to people via LinkedIn. I like to reach out to them. I reach out to 100 people and maybe 50 get back to me and maybe 10 will have a conversation with me and maybe 2 will hop on a call. But what's really good about it is you can get a new mentor or someone who has your back on your side by asking them really good questions when you're on the phone with them. This is crucial. It's a really good way to show that you've done your homework and that you're resourceful and you're willing to go above and beyond what the average person is going to do. I liked to ask really in-depth questions so I could get maybe some insider information, nothing proprietary, but insider information to be able to spit back to the interviewer so that when I was interviewing, they could see that I spoke with someone internally because there's no other way I would have known that information otherwise. A big point here, if you're going to get on a call with someone, be respectful of their time. Don't be picky with the time. If they want to meet at 8 p.m. on a Tuesday, you meet at 8 p.m. on a Tuesday. You're on their calendar because really they're doing something out of the kindness of their heart for you. And this really means you should show gratitude. Ask insightful questions. If you're there and you're asking stupid questions that you could have answered yourself by a quick Google search, you're not helping anyone. Do not waste people's time. If you want someone to have your back, ask insightful questions and show you've already done homework and are looking to do more. Now, here's a few bonus tips for you. When it comes to interviewing, try to keep answers under 90 seconds. Interviewers know when you ramble, and if you're in sales and you're rambling in an interview, there's a good chance you're going to ramble in a sales call. They don't want to see that. They want to see that you're precise, that you can convey a message precisely and get your words out. Keep your answers under 90 seconds. This is something that you can also do while you're recording yourself. make sure you're under 90 seconds. The three traits that I think are most important for sales candidates are coachability, grit, and competitiveness. Those three qualities are probably the most attractive to sales employers, at least from what I've seen. Every single employer loves to hear that you're coachable, and that's probably the biggest indicator of success. They love to know that you work your ass off, and they want to know that you're competitive because sales is a competitive job. Another tip is that confidence comes from preparation. The less prepared you are, the less confident you're going to be. When you have all of the tools that you need under your belt when walking into an interview or a sales call, you're going to feel more confident about being able to answer objections, being able to explain something in greater detail. Whereas if you're under prepared, you're going to be guessing. You're going to be nervous. You might sweat a little. It's better to be prepared. Preparation is the biggest difference between the haves and the have nots. And so if you take nothing else from this video, prepare. Preparation is everything in sales. And you have to prove that from the beginning in the interview process because it's only going to be more prep when you actually get the job. So those are the steps that I have. Is there anything else that you would add? Let me know in the comments. Also, feel free to like and subscribe. I'll be making more content like this. I start my job here really soon. I'm really excited about being able to walk through the process with you guys. So if you like this content and want to learn more, I'll be here. Looking forward to the next episode. Have a good one.